Welcome to Hobby Evolution, episode 545. Welcome back. Missed you the last couple days. I was dealing with, and I still have terrible pressure, like the T zone. I've talked about it. I get seasonal allergies. I get sinus headaches in the winter when it's super dry. Fortunately, I haven't had any bad sinus pressure the last two winters. But I've been battling seasonal allergies this week. Of course, in Wisconsin, springtime is brutal when it comes to allergies. I've actually read that Madison, Wisconsin, is one of the worst cities for allergies in the country. And I have allergies no matter where I'm at. When I had them when I grew up in Illinois, I moved a couple hours south in Illinois and still had them. And they're probably worse now than what they were, but I still get them. We had last week super cold weather for April, in the 30s, in the 40s. Then it warmed up Saturday. I brought a coat. I brought a winter coat to the Rockford show on Saturday morning, but I just had it sitting in my car because usually because I'm usually wheeling out like three or four loads of cards. So, if it's 30, 40 degrees, it's not bad without a coat because I've got usually a hoodie on. But I walked out of the show and I'm just wearing a hoodie. It's like, whoa, the sun's beating down. It's probably, I don't know, 50 degrees. It felt really warm, maybe 55, but it felt really warm. And then we had a couple of days of that warm weather, spring-like weather, which it should be, middle of April. So Monday and Tuesday took the dog for a walk, but it was super windy. Okay, so now it's warming up and it's windy, and I live on the outskirts of town, so there's a lot of fields nearby, especially where I was actually the one day I take a couple different dog walking routes. In one of my routes that I took, I think Monday, it's literally walking through like fields and like not through it, but there's a sidewalk along like fields and wild grass. And then our walk on Tuesday took us down, to the west edge of the neighborhood where it's, farmland at the edge. And so all of that wind blowing that soil and all that stuff right up my nose. So Tuesday, I actually developed. I'll wrap up my my allergy talk here shortly. But Tuesday, I started getting, and it was almost immediately. I kind of started feeling the stuff coming on Tuesday afternoon, um, and I kind of felt crappy going into Hobby Hotline on Tuesday night. It's like I'll just motor through it, and by the time that Hobby Hotline ended Tuesday night, I was uh, pretty beat. My head was pretty beat, and didn't sleep well. Woke up just what was so Wednesday. I just was absolute dog crap all day, and then I started feeling better yesterday. I still had the headache, but was at least energetic and getting stuff done. Today, I have the energy back, but I still have lingering headache. Um, We've got Jenny in the chat. Ed, OG, good morning to you. Victor, what's up? Happy Friday. I forgot it was Friday this morning, just because my week's been all thrown off whack. Herman's with us. What's up? Welcome back. Thank you. Dan, good evening to you. Zach, good morning. About the cards asks, what is sleep? Good morning, Diego. Diego's in New Jersey. And this is an interesting story, non-hobby related. Oh, and I have another hobby related story that I read this morning. I was laying in bed looking at the news, and so in New Jersey, there's a rash of brain cancer among former students of a high school. I think it's called Colonia High School in New Jersey. And I think one of the men who developed this brain tumor, beat it. His wife and younger sister, and they all attended the same high school, all had a brain tumor, brain cancer. And so his sister passed away from it at like the age of 44. And he's like documented. There's at least 94 cases of brain cancer among students of this same high school between the ages of between the graduation years of like 1975 and 2000. Just a very, very sad story. And some of it's a very rare form of brain cancer. So Diego, that reminded me, it was in New Jersey. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Colonia High School. I think it's near Middletown, if I'm not mistaken. But that was just a wild story I read this morning. Cooter, good morning to you. Got those Will Clarks out yesterday, so those should be showing up in your mailbox soon. Low Roller, you heard one popular YouTuber's eBay sellers got suspended by selling high sneaker shoes since he didn't provide receipts and invoices. You need to be careful making a lot of money on eBay. I saw a blurb on that, but I didn't. When I saw sneakers, it just kind of turned me off. If it would have been a card related story, I probably would have read it. I did not read into it though. Straight Execution says, "Good morning. See, a Suzuki is hotter than your morning coffee." That ain't no doubt an RBI doubled yesterday. Didn't see the box. I did see the box score, but I didn't look at closely at Sia Suzuki's numbers. I do know he hit an RBI double early in the game, though. I did not watch. Might have been yesterday. Might have been the first Cubs game I didn't watch. It was a night game, so I typically don't watch too many night games. Um, and actually, when I worked in the office, I didn't watch too many day games. I actually watch more night games than day games. Now it's in reverse. Um, let's see. Good thing Diego's so old. He was in high school before it was called high school. eBay YouTuber sell a daily refinement. Okay, I'll check that out. I'll read up on that story. What's up, John? Good morning, 70s Card Show. Glad you're feeling back to normal. Thank you, Ken. Not 100%. I still have just that lingering head stuff, but I am feeling, at least I have some energy. Jenny says he made 2.1 million. If Bo hits that, he ain't worried about nothing. If I make 2.1 million in sales and eBay shuts down my account, I'll brush it aside and I'll find somewhere else. I'll be good. I'll be good. It could be sports cards too, any category. eBay can go after everyone. Let's see, Diego, regarding the cancer story in northern New Jersey, New York side. Okay, gotcha. I'm only up so we could be at Ace when they open. Priorities. There you go. The guy had no receipts for his $50,000 sneakers he was selling. Bo keeps all his receipts. And that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about keeping receipts, organizing, and I get this question a lot, like what counts. I'm going to share what I do. But as always, I will tell you, call a CPA, hire a tax professional before taking anybody's advice online, and especially mine, because I took some accounting classes with tax law in, as part of the curriculum, and let me tell you, it is very difficult, and it changes on a yearly basis. In fact, with this new stuff coming on for next year, my CPA even told me, he's like, I'm talking to other CPAs, they're still trying to figure out, what's the parameters on certain things. And I think one of the biggest things was, when you're using PayPal to pay, hey, I'll grab dinner tonight, shoot me some PayPal or Venmo or whatever you use. And it's like, well, I shouldn't be getting taxed on, somebody paying me for dinner that I paid for. So there's a lot of like intricacies that are being sorted out. Wake and Brick, 2 phones, 2 thumbs up. I love it. Thank you. My high school was my middle school. My high school, we had by the time, so my preschool was in like literally somebody's house. It was a farmhouse. It was actually a girl that I went all through school with. Her mom was our preschool teacher in a little farmhouse. But then later on, the preschool moved into the high school, grade school, middle school. So my high school had preschool all the way through high school, one building. It took up what, 2 blocks? And I mean, we're talking a small town, 900 people in the town. We had a couple of small towns that filtered in to our school. So you went from preschool all the way through high school. And the funny thing is, the preschool was right across the hallway from our ag department. The preschool was in what used to be the high school lunch room. And then at some point before I uh, um, went to school, they moved even the high school. They went to the other end of the building, to the grade school cafeteria, lunchroom cafeteria. So, but I was always fascinated with our preschool slash. It was the concession stand during high school basketball games, and I was always fascinated during high school basketball games, because they had all of like the all conference photos of all conference football, volleyball, basketball players, like dating back to the 70s. And I was always like, how I love history. So I was always like staring up and seeing the different names. And I'd say, oh, that's my dad's friend. I didn't know he was good at basketball. Anyway, let's see. Let's go to the chat. I think eBay was looking for the invoices to prove ownership and legitimacy of the sneakers. I agree. Low Roller says April 15th is tax day. It's actually Monday. It's April 18th this year. About the cards, also has that allergy nasally head stuff. It's awful. I hate it. And I get it every year, every single stinking year. I had the same discussion on Facebook group. I've had a few hundred 1099s, so I have some experience, but CPAs are the answer, though they sometimes need guidance. Absolutely. And especially if they're not familiar with, um, trading cards. Fortunately, my accountant has some other clients that, um, you know, we're doing when I started this out as a side hustle. And before I went into business, and so now it's an actual business as of October 1st of 2021. But my previous taxes, it was side hustle money. But he was familiar with that because he has clients that also do it as a side hustle. Correct, Cooter. Maybe I associate invoices to receipts. Maybe they're not the same. The Cubs owners have decided to end their interest in buying Chelsea. That's fantastic because they've been crying poor. Oh, we can't afford. And yet we're interested in buying. How much ever money that's going to cost. My I was totally on board with the Ricketts pre World Series, and then once the World Series hit, it was like they don't care. Um, it was like leading up to the World Series, out shaking hands, kissing babies. We're gonna win you fans a World Series. It's all about you, the fan. And then they won the World Series, and they realized now it's a big moneymaker, and now we're gonna take advantage of you, and we're gonna stop giving you, especially season ticket holders, long time season ticket holders. Uh, they just kept taking things away, and so I wouldn't mind seeing the Ricketts sell and having an ownership. But really, in all honesty, who is a fan of their team's ownership group? And now, especially in Major League Baseball, what we just went through with the lockout, um, is do we like any of the ownership groups in Major League Baseball? What's up, Abraham? Good morning. Abraham, I saw you in my eBay shipments yesterday, so thank you very much. My computer froze. I don't know if I'm frozen on your end, but I'm gonna keep talking. Um, where are we at here? So John says Bo was on Little House on the Prairie, apparently. What is your limit for cards in a PWE? Says Jenny, curious for a trade. 28 cards split between two different PWEs and 9 pocket pages. Non-machine butterfly stamp, 88 cents. And I will say Jenny sent me several envelopes in that fashion, and all have been no issues with postage and no issues with damage. So follow Jenny's rule. It works to a T. Now, saying that, every case is different. Every post office, every person that touches it within the USPS somebody could be having a bad day. Somebody interprets the rules differently, but that can happen to literally any package. I've had envelopes less than 1 ounce be returned because they were quote non-machinable, which is BS. Let's see. John, you've had a few hundred 1099s. Don't you only get one per year? Let's see. You get a 1099 from each entity. For cards, eBay will send one. PayPal will send one. Robinhood will, Coinbase. I think Venmo. I think basically all the payment platforms now we'll begin sending you one at the $600 mark. So starting with next year's taxes for 2022. I used to get 10 to 20 years of freelancer. Yes, in fact, when I went back to school, I learned the hard way. I was not very privy to how the taxes worked. And I think it was my first year back in college. And most of my work was freelance. I was back in school full time, so I was just picking up, contract work, and I get all these 1099. So when I went and I always had a tax professional do my taxes, and he's like, "Do you have any expenses to offset these?" And I'm like, "Oh, let me see." And I dug up some, but not enough, and I had a decent tax bill that I had to pay when I was expecting, like, I guess I was a little too naive, uh, realizing that, oh, I didn't pay taxes on this income, and that was a lesson learned. And it only took one year, and so I was prepared for the next year. So I don't want you to be unprepared like I was at that point in my life. So I want to give you some tips today on uh, preparing yourself. Now, if we're talking about last year's taxes for the ones that are due Monday, you're probably a little too late. But like I said in the description, yesterday was the day to start getting everything in order for next year. Actually, it was January 1st was the right time, but April 15th is not too late, and just keep on top of it. So I'm going to give you some of my tips. OG says audio and video all good. You're not frozen. Okay. Just on my end, I guess. I'm holding a card in my hand right now that Jenny sent me. Awesome. Stefan, there you go. Wrong account. LOL. Good morning. Abraham, yes, I picked up a couple of basketball cards. Also, I like Mark Adanasio. So Abraham does like the Brewers ownership group. And there are some out there. I think it's a rarity. And I don't know how long that ownership group has been in Milwaukee, but it seems like there's a honeymoon period, because when a new ownership group comes in, it's like, oh, they're going to change, especially if you're like the Cubs, and you've been losing for several years, and now you have this energetic Cubs fan, Tom Ricketts, come in and promise you a World Series, which I will admit, Tom Ricketts did provide Cubs fandom a World Series in 2016. So for that, I will forever be grateful. Zach says Mark A is a good owner. Have you ever had issues shipping thick cards through eBay PWE? Personally, I have. Not specifically thick in general, but jersey cards, relics. I have had issues. Now, what I've been doing that seems to be working, because I have shipped recently, I stopped altogether. Um, but relics, especially like the plain white swatches, are just, I hate them, because you put them in a dollar box and nobody really wants them for a dollar. And, you can get a couple bucks on them from eBay, but, they basically sell for the price of shipping. So I have put some low dollar, and I've just, put my neck on the line and ship them. But what I do is I will ship them in a top loader that fits them. The problems I was having, I think, was I was shipping them if it was like Heritage swatches are thin enough to fit in a top loader, but it's pretty tight. And I think that tightness created and it would almost like put a wrinkle where the swatch and the cardboard met. And that happened about 50% of the time that I was shipping in that method. Since I've gone to the thicker card top loader, I haven't had any issues. Knock on plastic. But yes, I have had several issues with relic cards, not with just standard thick cards in PWE. Let's see. John says, and you pay double payroll taxes as there is no employer to pay the other half. FICA, yes. We do as well, but only on check cash outs. Zach is asking John if he's going to Madison on April 30th. Jenny doesn't personally ship 130 point or greater PWE, but some of those smaller relics I put inside a greeting card and haven't had issues yet, except one buyer was not happy about it. One tip I used was to increase my withholding for my W-2s to offset the 1099s. There you go. DR, what's up? Happy to have you back. Thank you. I appreciate that. He says, as a shareholder of the Packers, I think I am the best owner in professional sports. Steph says, is a World Series what happens when you eat defrosted cereal in the winter? Jenny says, I'm going to send my thick cards to ComC. Just have to figure it out. John is shooting to be at Madison. That's awesome. ComC, I just moved in. Okay, there we are. Back in focus. ComC is something that I still I do need to. What I've realized over, especially yesterday. Yesterday, I started really organizing. My rec room is an absolute disaster. Thanks to just me being lazy, but also with the latest Goodwill pickup. And so yesterday, I kind of spent time back and forth shipping and cleaning, shipping and cleaning. I also have about 2 months worth. By the way, Jenny, you sent me a PWE. In Herman sent me a PWE, and I think Brad, they were postmarked February, and I just opened them yesterday. So thank you. I appreciate that. A lot of mail I have set aside, and it's like I'll get to it, and finally it's like, remember last week when I said you have time, you just have to make time, you just have to make time for it. So I finally made some time, and so I really need to get organized because I think being so disorganized, look behind me, has created just kind of a whirlwind in my mind. Organization, I do want to touch on organization. Ron Berry on Twitter tweeted something about organization, and I think it may have stemmed from one of Jenny's tweets, which was like mind blowing to me that I'm going to put into practice because organization is the bane of my selling existence on eBay. So I want to talk about organization. Maybe I'll touch on that tomorrow or Sunday. But I do want to put that into practice, what Ron does. So going back to ComC, what I realized I actually turned down, I looked at a collection on last Sunday. I had somebody reach out from the blowout forums. I'm always looking to buy like bulk flat rate boxes. I've had good success doing that. I had somebody reach out, hey, I've got some. And I'm like, I'm buried right now. Turn that down. I had one of my dealers, and I've talked about this. I have like 3 dealers that have bulk. One of the dealers reached out. He's like, hey, I've got those cards. Do you want it? If you don't, I'm going to put an ad in for it. And I'm like, right now, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to pass. I just have too much going on. I have too much inventory that I need to stop acquiring more. And I learned that even more so yet. And I've kind of known that over the last, especially with the latest Goodwill palette. Now, if another Goodwill palette comes up, probably going to buy it. But as I'm going through and cleaning up yesterday, especially in my rec room, there's a monster box sitting on my coffee table, and I open it up, and it's like, gee, this monster box is filled with stuff that needs to go on eBay. And there's a lot of my issue. What slows me down in a lot of my inventory is Chrome and Prism cards, especially the colors. Now, a lot of them are like $2-3 cards. So listing them just from my phone and taking that time, it's not really worth it. I can't them because they won't run through my Fujitsu scanner. So I think that would be a good start to test out the waters on ComC. So Steph, Rich, I'm going to make a point over the next couple months. Maybe I'll set myself a deadline of, I don't know, it's April 15th. So give me some time. Maybe June 1st, I will set aside a small box. I don't know, 200 cards, 300 cards, and start small and get those, refractors, color parallels. Because in another thing, and this is what Mike Summer told me, I don't know if it was just in DMs or if it was on Twitter, or the National, there you go, was because I tweeted out something about, there was I probably have it here next to me. I think I filed it away. It was like a Peyton Manning I think it was Baker Mayfield. It was because Panini stuff, especially football and basketball, I have no idea what this stuff is. but Steph and Rich do it ComC, and they do all that work for me. And then I just go in and price it. So I think that fee, that upfront fee, that's what's always turned me off about ComC. Just and I think a lot of people are that upfront insertion fee. That's what turned me off from scaling up on eBay, years ago. Up until April 2020. And now I can just go full bore. But I think we'll see the success. I'll do a small batch. We'll see what happens, and then go from there. Let's see. So I'm going to go back to the chat. Get with Mike Summer about ComC. He's got that figured out. Yeah, so Steph and Mike Summer, I will definitely lean on for any ComC questions. Look forward to meeting you. I will wear a pink carnation. I'll be wearing nothing but a pink carnation. Moving on. Let's see. Wifey and I work there in customer service. Stefan is more of a pro than Mike Summer. Rob on Twitter, what a system he has. John is going to be swimming in cards when he picks up a U-Haul in Texas of cards. Assuming everything processes smoothly, I just spent $130 on a Lee Sung Yup card I haven't seen before. Very nice. Very nice. Let's see. 50 cents per base, discounted it from new sets released within 90 days. Interesting. Okay. 20 people watching. Very cool. Oh, up to 26. Hit that like button. Thank you. Bo, of the people in this chat, which one have I met in person? Dan, that's a great question. I'm going to say Steph. Just looking through everything. That's my guess. John's watching on 8 different devices. Hey, I never thought of that. I get my phone up and boost my numbers. I got it. Yes. So let's talk taxes. So this is something, again, before I go in, he didn't bring me fried bugs. Before I go into tax talk, I am not a tax professional. In fact, I am the furthest away of a tax professional you can get, though I did have some college education when it came to tax law in business school. And it was like so that's why I have always had a tax professional do my taxes, all the way back to when I was, and at times I was going to like H&R Block, and I will say, don't go to H&R Block. Find a local CPA. Find a local tax professional. And that would be my advice, especially now when it comes to, you're going to be getting these 1099s if you're selling more than $600. And if you're doing any type of, volume, because they can really guide you on your own personal finance journey when it comes to taxes. Nobody on the internet can. Well, I won't say nobody. There are tax professionals that are on online. In fact, Bench Clear Media, there's been a couple, I can't think of the gentleman's name, but he's a tax professional, and there's some great videos. Check out Bench Clear Media. I think DR actually turned me on, and thank you, DR, because when Dan tweeted that link, that was my introduction to Bench Clear Media. I had heard of them, and I knew of Mike's collection. I didn't really know Ty, although we've followed each other on Twitter. Frank, thank you, John, thank you. But when Dan tweeted or provided that link in this chat on our Hobby Evolution several months ago, I watched it and I'm like, this is really entertaining stuff. And then I started watching other videos, and now it's like every time Mike or Ty puts on a new video, I'm watching because they put out some great stuff. So again, I am not a tax professional. This is not tax advice. I do implore you to call a tax professional when it comes to any type of questions concerning your own personal tax advice. But what I am going to talk about is how I organize and what is a relatable expense. And again, the things that I talk about, you should always follow up with a tax professional, because again, I am not. Frank is Baseball Hall of Fame autographs on YouTube. Oh, interesting. I will have to look him up on YouTube. I did not know he had his own channel. Um, so I'm going to start with, let's see, not a tax professional, but I did stay at a Holiday Inn once. It's a nudge to do it Bo's way. There you go. It's just, this is my way. This is my way. And so I get the question a lot. And usually I just sidestep it because I don't want to answer it because, again, I don't know the intricacies of tax law. And I have an accountant that does everything for me. So basically, I just do what he tells me to do, and I keep track of everything. And then I provide him the information, and then he does with it whatever can be done with it. If if he tells me no, this doesn't count, then it's tossed. Or he will advise me that, hey, uh, do you have, we can write this off, we can write this off, we can write this off. So he gives me advice on things that I wouldn't have thought about. Or like in the case of my 2019 or 2020 taxes, when all of a sudden there was an influx in sales, and he's like, hey, we've got to get this number down. And it's like November, December when I'm talking to him, and he's like, and this was like this was the greatest tax advice ever. He goes, because I made a good amount of money and as a side hustle, and he goes, just buy as many cards as you can. Buy as many cards as you can as a write off. And I'm like, that's pretty good advice. My wife didn't think so, but I thought it was pretty cool. What's up, Andrew? Good morning. Bo, give me a wrench. Oh, I will do that. So I did not know John did not have a wrench. There you go. You have been wrenched. John has been wrenched. So John's going to provide Frank's information. Yeah, and Frank provides. I saw him on at least 2 videos on Bench Clear. Great stuff. There you go. And he does. I think in the last video I watched, he actually said that he's taking on clients, and so there's his information, so he might be able to help out. Let's see, because he's not. Yeah, right. So here's what I track. And this is not everything, but this is just to kind of try to give you ideas on what is a relatable expense if you're selling cards. And again, this is kind of geared toward, this is a business for me, but I know probably most people watching, it's not their business. It's their, side hustle. And that's what this information is geared toward, because I assume if you're doing this as a business, this is old information for you. So what I consider and what my tax professional has advised on, relatable expenses, we're talking, okay, first off, I'm going to get into the 1099 itself before I get into the expenses. The 1099, eBay will send you a 1099, and in most states for last year's taxes that are due Monday, the threshold is still $600. I do know, I think the state of Illinois and one other state went to the $600 threshold for 2021 taxes. But for the most part, that $600 threshold will not take effect until this year's taxes. So anything this year you're making is going to be billed for 2022 taxes. So when eBay sends you that 1099, so say you sold $1,000 worth of stuff on eBay, you're going to get a 1099 for $1,000. So now you have to write off expenses related to that $1,000. And eBay on the 1099 does not include eBay fees. If say it was just one card, say it was $1,000 PSA 10 something. It does not include the fees. So that's going to be roughly $130 or $150 in fees. It's not going to include shipping. So say you send it priority, let's just say $10 for shipping. So there's $160 right off the top that need to be deducted from that $1,000. Now there's other expense. There's going to be supplies. And supplies can be, in that case, it's probably going to be a box. And if you're shipping priority, you might go flat rate. But say it's your own box, you had to buy a box at Target, that box price. Maybe you got packing peanuts or bubble wrap. That's going to be something that's relatable. Um, Gas, if you're driving to the post office, track those miles. And this is something that I need to get back on board with, that my wife advised me to do, and how she tracks for her real estate, is in a Google Calendar. Every day she tracks how many miles she put on her car for business related driving. So you drive to the post office and back, say it's 20 miles, 10 miles, write that down. April 15th, drove to the post office, dropped off this $1,000 Luca card. Let's see. And then it gets into like the supplies, labels, print for ink for your printers, labels. If you have a label maker, maybe you bought a label maker, that's going to go in. Then it gets into the intricacies of home office, cell phone, because a lot of people are listing via the eBay app. So your cell phone, again, talk to a tax professional, because there's I think with mileage, it's what's the federal rate now? 55 cents, I think, per mile. Um, with home office, it's like a percentage of the house, I think, of your mortgage, or rent. Cell phone, you can't just write off your monthly cell phone bill. It's got to be like a percent, whatever the IRS dictates is business related, or whatever. Card show expenses. This is kind of again, to get a more clear picture, talk to a tax professional. But if you're setting up at a card show, say I go to Rockford on last Saturday, I hit Dunkin' Donuts, I grab a coffee and a sandwich. I put that down as a business expense, because it's normally, if I was not doing business that day, driving to Rockford, I would not have gone to Dunkin' Donuts. So that's a business meal. Anything related to that you're at the show, your fees. Now, here's where it gets tricky, because you're setting up at a card show. How many times have you received or given a receipt as a dealer or a buyer at a card show? I've only received one receipt. It was at last year's National. I bought a bunch of tobacco cards actually, he was from Syracuse, New York, from Dan's area. He was a dealer at the National, had some awesome vintage, like pre-war stuff. And I bought a few cards off of him. I did get a receipt from that. What I do is I create receipts. I'm going to tweet this link. This is a great, and it actually goes beyond just creating receipts. It's basically a financial program. It's called Wave App. Financial. My friend who just started his own business a couple of years ago turned me on to this. I don't use it as it's similar, like it has options to where it's similar to QuickBooks. But what I use it for specifically is creating invoices and receipts for my cash deals. So my cash deals, anything related to the card show that I promote. So the money, the income that I receive from table costs. So X amount in tables, I create a receipt or an invoice that says I made this much money on vendor tables. There were 80 vendors. And this was the total amount that I brought in cash wise. And then at the same time, it's like, I may have spent $100 on bulk from one of my dealers. So I'll create a receipt using Wave App, and I'll put down $100. This was for 5 monster boxes of bulk. Let's see, here we go. I'm gonna type this in. So this is called Wave App, and it's let's just do this. I hate long links. There you go. I don't know if that should work. Does that work? I just clicked on it. Okay, takes you to Wave app. So that's a great website to create, especially for like cash deals. If you need a paper trail, I don't know how I don't know how that's going to hold up, but at least it's something. If not for just my own record keeping, but I figure at the end of the year, promoting my own show and my sales as a vendor through the various card shows, I'm going to have more homemade receipts from my income than I am from my purchases. But that's how I keep track of my own purchases. I think uh, having that paper trail is good. But also, if you pay, you know, via PayPal or credit card, at least you have that as a backup as well. Um, so always have receipts, which gets me into I had a question via DM just a couple days ago, which kind of uh, led me to have this discussion because normally I don't like having this discussion because my advice is call a professional. That's my advice when it comes to taxes. But I did want to offer some advice just to give you, how I handle things. And again, everything's run through my account. So there may be some things that you know get thrown out essentially, and it may not. It may be different for everybody. Um, so where was I going with that? So let's see. So I make cash receipts. Um, I lost my train of thought. This might be the second video Bo will have to go not for kids. I assume you mean you're good and it auto corrected to God, but hey, either would work. I always wonder about personally owned items turned to inventory. There you go. Thank you, Diego. I'm glad you mentioned that because that's where I was going to go next. No, the fellas in jail specifically use the word God. Good morning, card hobbyist. What's up? Was that while playing hide the shank? Nonprofit orgs provide handwritten receipts for donations, so I would say handwritten should be good, but I'm no CPA either. Yeah, and I guess with like donations to like Goodwill, like you basically fill out the receipt. They give you basically a blank from my personal experience. They've just given me, here's a blank receipt with the Goodwill donation, and then you fill out like, you know, this was $500 worth of items I donated to Goodwill. So yes, I think you are right there. Steph may try that PB burger next Friday. Having a paper trail goes against the knowledge I have obtained growing up. So inventory. So this was a question that led me to have this discussion because when I lost my train of thought, it was because normally I don't like having this discussion, but we had some great back and forth. He was asking some questions on how I do things because I think his wife was going into business that turned from a side hustle to a business. So inventory was the tricky part, and I think I offered I'm going to get into organizing after I talk about inventory because I think that's where it started. That's where our conversation started was with organization, spreadsheets, all that fun stuff. Zach, have a great day. Thank you. Um, so inventory. This is the really tricky part. So a lot of the inventory that's behind me, my business began on October 1st, 2021, with about 2.5 million trading cards in my possession. Many of those are being sold on a daily basis. Um, so how do I account? Because it's existing inventory and I did pay for these. So when I sell a card for $10, I have some money tied into it. So this was a tricky subject to tackle. And my accountant gave me, a few different options of how to handle it. So essentially what it came down to was existing inventory was going to be anything that I can prove with a receipt. So going back to a paper trail, anything that I have a paper trail for that proves what I paid for an item. Because some stuff it was like, well, I think the biggest question I had going into that conversation was, I have all this stuff. It's going to sell for a lot more than, what I paid for it, or, do I put a book value? Beckett value of 5 cents per common card, or this card books for $150. But essentially, I think the easiest way around it, and to prove it, and be good loyal subjects to the IRS, everything you paid for. And so I came up with a number of all the receipts, and I was able to go back like 7 years, through my credit card statements, through my bank account, through my PayPal, which was huge. I had downloaded my PayPal history, that dates back to, not all the way back from my formation of PayPal, but goes back pretty far. So I was able to create, a pretty good, inventory with a paper trail of items, of cards and purchases. And then I went to like tops.com, which a lot of that routed through my bank account. So it was much easier than I expected. Because really I don't buy much from card shows. In fact, I didn't really start buying quote inventory until within the last year. So I didn't have much, card purchases, that were part of my inventory, that were purchased with cash at a card show. Fortunately for me, a lot of my inventory had a paper trail. So now it's tedious, and it took me a few days to go to every site and try to get, because I want to get the highest number possible, for an existing inventory number. But it's not, there's probably stuff in here that, is definitely unaccounted for because it's, a cash purchase, because I did buy a lot of collections through PayPal or through, Craigslist and Facebook Marketplace. So cash deals, no paper trail. So that's how I handled the existing inventory. Again, that's definitely, I don't know if that applies to somebody who is, doing this as a side hustle. I'm sure in some capacity, but again, um, call your tax accountant before moving forward with anything, because you don't want to, come up with a big number and then get audited and, get into trouble because for whatever reason. So that's how I personally handled inventory for my business, which went into effect on October 1st. There was a last thing, which is the organization, and that's how this conversation on Twitter, through DM started, was, how do you organize the expenses? So I have, uh, kind of a multi-step method. So basically, my wife's really good with keeping receipts and keeping organized. I strive to be organized, but I'm just I'm just not an organized person. But I will try to improve. Um, so she has a system. I kind of have a hybrid of that system. Basically, everything I get a receipt for, from Dunkin' Donuts to Target, if I go to Costco to buy my bulk envelopes, I keep that receipt and I file it away, and it goes into a monthly envelope. And I think you've probably seen, like, I don't know if it's Dave Ramsey that does the, have, I think it is Dave Ramsey, with the budgets, and just have an envelope and say this is your monthly budget for entertainment, food. So I do a similar method, for my expenses, for my receipts. And so my business, my fiscal year is October 1st through September 30th. So I have envelopes marked October, November, December, January, and on. So all of those receipts, paper receipts, go into the you know each envelope, marked for that specific month. Um, sometimes I don't have receipts. I mentioned I make the receipts, so any of my sales from tables for my vendors at the card show, I make a receipt. Any purchases at a card show, paid with cash, I make a receipt, through Wave Apps, which is in the chat link. Now there's a link in the chat. So then those go filed, and then month by month, I have a separate income, and I have a separate income statement, a spreadsheet, and a separate expenses spreadsheet. So what I do is each month, eBay And if you have an eBay store, if you don't have an eBay store, I don't think you have access to this. But if you do have an eBay store, there's access to um, your monthly reports, and it drills down. This is your gross sales. This is how much you spent on postage. This is how much you paid in fees. So I use that for my income statement along, and then I put it in a separate spreadsheet with the income from eBay using those monthly reports, along with any card show income. Say I made $400 at the card show in Rockford. I made $300 at the Madison card show, and then I made X amount on tables for the Madison card show. So that all goes into my income spreadsheet for, say, October 2021. And then I have a separate expenses spreadsheet where it breaks down, and I used a template that I think my wife used. But I had to alter it because real estate and selling cards a little different. So it comes down to office supplies, um, fees, postage, um, what else? Food, travel, if necessary, and that stuff. So that goes into my expense spreadsheet. Um, there's also a great CRT cards. Chris Torres has a great spreadsheet that's available. He tweets it out every once in a while. Check that out. I just created my own. I think that was more tailored, if I remember, to like tracking inventory sales. But it's been a while since I've looked at it. So that's another thing that I do want to touch on as we approach the hour, um, is how I track, like, and I've talked about this before. So my January Rockford show, say I bought $60 monster box from John, the Indiana vendor, um, and I started tabbing it RO01. And I think I'm going to actually go in and I need to do that again. And I haven't been keeping up with these as well as I should, just to track, okay, how well did I do? The latest Goodwill lot I didn't. Um, and again, you have to be organized to, okay, today I'm going to list RO01s. Chris is my cousin 3,000 times removed. Um, so it's one of those things where I've got to figure out a system that works for me. But I loosely track. Say I spent $100 on this. Here's the income that I made from it. I'm looking more at a macro level of, okay, this month I spent $1,000 on cards and I made $10,000 on cards. So I look at it as more of a macro level than I do drilling it down at the micro level for each collection, bulk buy, etc. Boxes. So that's what I had for today. I'm going to go back to the chat. I need to clip this somehow to come back and rewatch on inventory. So I'm clipping it at this chat comment. Very cool. Dang, I never keep receipts on all them blasters. LO should have. So Jenny, neither do I, but you can go back. If you paid cash, then you're probably out of luck. But if you paid on any type of card, credit card, debit card, there's a paper trail. You can go to, say you bank with Chase, you can go into the Chase website and you can look at previous statements, and it's not going to be exact. You're not going to have a receipt, but you can at least say, hey, this is I spent $94. I bought 4 blaster boxes at Target in whatever year. So you can track it that way. It's not a receipt, but it's somewhat of a paper trail. I don't know how that's going to work in an audit. Hopefully none of us find out. My accountant did say like 80%, I think it was 80% of audits are done through bank accounts. So they like 80% of what they look at in an audit is your bank account. So take that for what it's worth. So your advice is just start a store on the dark web. That is not my advice. Documentation of expenses is your safe harbor to an auditor. If it is not documented, it did not occur. Absolutely. Let's see. I print my eBay statement monthly. It has all the fees posted, etc., written out on it. Does eBay add any promoting you purchase from them in their paperwork? Yes. So that's part of, I think that's broken down under the fees. I think it's like fees, and then I think there might be a separate line item for promotion fees. But yes, eBay does tell you how much you spent on promotional fees. Cooter's wife should be in this. Our sorority needs her opinion. That was comment of the night. I don't think you have to line by line every card you sell. It's a basic cost of goods versus sales. BSS cards, thanks for joining. Yes, that's yeah, and I certainly don't do that. I think that's for me why I want to see that is not for tax reporting or anything like that. It's just for my own personal, okay, I spent $100 on this bulk buy and I made $200, or I made $50, and it's like, okay, and it kind of shows me, what did I sell within that lot or collection that I purchased, what sold, what didn't sell, how much time did it take to list, ship, organize, all of that stuff. And if I only made, say my gross sales on $100 box was $200, well, it's not going to be worth it because you take, your fees and your shipping and your time, and it's like, okay, I probably lost money on this particular um, purchase. Cooter says I have on earbuds to keep her comments from the peanut gallery to a minimum. That's hilarious. Centex Rocket, good morning. I wonder how I would count what I collected back in the 80s and 90s and want to sell now. I don't know. Fortunately, I don't have that problem because I don't think I have a single card left from my 80s and 90s collection. The only things that I know that I still have, like from going into the 90s, my early eBay days, I have a Manny Alexander game used autographed bat, who was a Cubs shortstop in the late 90s. And I have a Ty Griffin signed baseball. I think those were the only two items that I like really kept because I went through a couple like just complete purges of my collecting. I think one time was in the one point in time, it was in college or shortly after college when I learned what many learn in college is credit cards are not good for people that are still in the learning process of being on their own in semi-adulthood. Meaning, I built up a lot of credit card debt in college, and I had a lot of Cubs stuff that I had been collecting, and I purged it all. I think that was also the time I was digging CDs out of the radio station dumpster to sell on eBay, which really that helped me more than my Cubs collecting because there wasn't much demand for Ty Griffin autographed baseballs. Let's see. Oh, good idea because I use my Target Red card for all my sports cards, so that would be good. There you go. And that's probably even better because you might be able to differentiate between card purchases and other purchases. John has been audited. Not thrilling. Ooh, I do not want to know how that feels. Who wants to volunteer to get audited so we know how that process works? John, that should be a video. Tell us the details on getting audited. Jenny says, my auditing process was comical. Jenny says, yes, separate line item for promotions. Took me a minute to figure that one out, but a few months ago, my IRS agent left his Wi-Fi hotspot in my house, and when he printed out the complaint, it came out of his printer that he brought to my house in Chinese. Interesting. Interesting. What is your fave signed ball, Griffin? Oh man, that's tough, Dan. That's really tough because here's what I like about my autographed baseball collection. It's more personal. Cubs cards, baseball cards in general, to me, I don't have that personal collection unless there's a story. When they're gifted to me and when my friends send them, you guys in the chat send them, that means a lot more than just pulling a card from a blaster box or a hobby box. those are fun. Like if I pull a Cubs autograph out of a personal hobby box, that's fun. But most of the cards, it's just like, yeah. Or you go to a card show and it's just like it's just another. I have a lot of cool vintage like pre-war Cubs cards that I've picked up, but they don't have a story. It's like I either bought it on eBay or bought it at a card show, and they don't do much for. They're cool pieces, but there's no personal touch. Um, but with my baseballs, most of them are signed in person. So there's a personal attachment that I have. So it's hard to decipher, choose between so many of them because I have so many stories and I can share. And that's what, I come downstairs and people see the cards and it's like, usually the first question is, what's your most valuable card? How many do you have? What's your favorite? Those are like the generic common questions I receive about the cards. But the baseballs, when I bring people down to my basement in my rec room, I have the ball wall. And I can, people are like, "Wow, are these all signed?" I think that's what one of my friends, my wife's friend that stayed with us last weekend said. Like, "Oh, are these all signed?" I'm like, "Yeah," and it's only half my collection. And so I can, so my baseball friends, I can pick out, certain balls. Like I got this signed, like Justin Grimm walking through the hotel said, "Hey guys, there's like 4 or 5 of us in the hotel lobby. Sorry guys, I'm not going to sign tonight." He gets like to the elevator. All of a sudden, he starts walking back, and he goes, "My wife told me I should sign." So it's just fun stories like that. Um, Ty Griffin's probably one of my favorites just because of it's probably the well, I know it's the autographed baseball that's been in my collection the longest. So just for that, it's probably on a short list. Plus, it's Ty Griffin, who's kind of my, you know, all-time favorite non-Cub draft pick. But then there's so many other stories of how I acquired different signed baseballs. So that's a tough question to. Maybe I'll do a video on. I'll show my ball wall and I'll just share stories. I know Dan would enjoy it, but I don't know if anybody else. It might only get 2 views. Me and Dan. Do you have an episode on getting started with business, like obtaining business license, setting up initial taxes, etc.? I don't, because it was kind of a whirlwind for me, and I don't really have the, um, I it would be difficult for me to offer like good advice because it just all happened so fast, and I had a lot of help doing it, from my wife to my accountant to family friend, that it was kind of a whirlwind process. So I don't know if I would be if I could if I could do a fair enough job of explaining that. Um, I think I am going to reach out to my accountant and see if he would be interested in doing a video, maybe doing a live session, and talking about some of this stuff. And I know they can't really talk about some things, but they can share other things. He has a very unique personality, and I think he would be great. Doing a YouTube video. I suppose I can print out USPS transactions on bank account because those were all trades and that was incoming cards. That I don't know. That's kind of a trades. That's a little trickier. I don't track any of that for like inventory or yeah, for inventory. That's kind of tricky. So I can't offer any help on that one. John, the IRS is not hiring the best and brightest in the graduate pool. Robert Lanham, great topic. Thank you. I got a 1099 from eBay for 2021 and was able to download all of the eBay docs and compare with my e-bills for each transaction, which I also saved. Don't ever try to beat the tax man. That's the best advice. Don't try to get around it, because you will get caught. My accountant actually shared a story about one of his clients who is, or I don't know if it's a client or somebody that he knows, but it's like, you can't do this, and you will get caught. It's not a matter of if, but when. So don't try to get around it because just paying your taxes, you know, try to get around it, legally, in every facet that is allowable, but never try to avoid them because you may beat it for a while, maybe a long time, but it's going to come back to bite. And when it does bite you, it's going to hurt. So I agree that. Cooter's waiting for John's ball wall response. What did the hoarder bow just saw? Purge? Yeah, yeah. I had a couple purges in my younger days. Balls to the wall video. Victor will watch. There you go. We've got three people that'll watch. I was thinking of accept as well, Dan. Balls to the wall hobby evolution episode 551. I spoke to Frank on Zoom for about an hour about taxes. He was very generous with his time and knowledge. That's awesome. Great idea to have your CPA do a vid. If you steal the tax man's Wi-Fi hotspot, that's a small victory. Jenny says, by the way, it's April 15th, Jackie Robinson Day. Ah, yes, it is. I thank you for mentioning that because I overlooked that. And it's 18 degrees and snowing. Well, I did not want to overlook that. It's only this computer says it's 33, which actually might be accurate. It does say sunny. Let's see. But I think 33 is probably inaccurate. Yeah, it's 33. And we're going to be in the mid 40s through next Wednesday. But then we're going to have a warm up next Thursday. So next weekend, it's going to be nice. It's going to be 69. Nice. Next Saturday. So there you go. So that's my tax talk for the day. Again, I implore you to talk to a tax professional for real advice. This is just some of the things that I do, kind of a guide to get you started. More on the organization part that I touched on briefly. That's kind of what I wanted to touch on, but I just did kind of want to do kind of an all around thing on just how I've handled it. But again, I wouldn't be able to do it on my own without any help from a CPA. John says each day is a daily decision between snow shovel or lawnmower. So I made the fatal mistake of putting my snow shovel away yesterday, April 14th. Now we had like 8 inches of snow on April. I think it was like April 23rd, of like 5 years ago. So I'm very like superstitious about putting the backyard shovel away because I have a backyard shovel for the patio. So for the dog, so the dog can go potty, um, go out to the grass, do a little spot in the grass, so she's not peeing on snow. So I'm always like hesitant to put that snow shovel away. It's like as soon as I put, it's like washing your car and it's gonna rain the next day. Like it's just inevitable. If you wash your car, it's gonna rain the next day. It's kind of what I feel like with the snow shovel. If I put the snow shovel away, we're gonna get 6 inches of snow. But I made that decision. I'm like, it's April 14th. It's been gloomy the last several days since I think Saturday or Sunday. I am ready to put this damn shovel away. So I did. Cooter says, good job, Bo, from a CPA non-tax practitioner. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I think Roundtable is moved to 23rd because of Easter. Dan, have a great weekend as well. Blame Bo if it snows. He put away the shovel. I will take that. I will take that if it does. So that's what I had for today. Thanks for tuning in. I'm gonna email my accountant today and see if he'd be up for doing something on YouTube. He's very outgoing, so I think he might be open to it. We'll see. So have a great weekend. I'll be on tomorrow morning. It's Saturday. No shows for me. So I will be on probably 8 a.m. somewhere in that vicinity, 8, 9, 8, probably earlier, probably 8 a.m. So I'll be on to talk. John says, great comeback show. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. So back on tomorrow morning, call it 8 a.m. Central. Have a great day and we'll chat again tomorrow.